Have you ever driven alone at night when the world feels like it's holding its breath? Just you, the road, and thoughts that don't quite have a name. I'm Ryan, and one such night led me to an unexpected encounter moment that changed everything. Stick around to hear the story of the night I didn't just meet a stranger but found a piece of myself. I'm Ryan, 24, living in a small town outside Seattle. My life's nothing flashy, but I like its simplicity. I work at a logistics company, not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps things moving. I've got good friends, the kind who meet up every Thursday to watch football, eat buffalo wings, and laugh until midnight. Life's not perfect, but I'd say I'm content. I grew up in a regular family, where Sunday dinners were full of laughter and random stories. My mom used to talk about her road trips back in the day, and I think those stories planted a seed in me, a love for the freedom of being alone on the road. I remember sitting in the back seat of our family SUV as a kid, staring out the window, imagining myself driving down endless highways. Maybe that's why I find comfort in late-night drives. A few months ago, I did something I'm proud of. I bought my first car with my own money. It's a 2006 Toyota Corolla, a little beat-up with a dent on the left fender and a sticky AC knob. It's not a dream car, but it's mine. After years of walking or squeezing onto crowded buses, having my own wheels feels like freedom. I can't put into words. I can go anywhere, anytime. All I need is my keys, and the world's out there waiting. That night, around 11 p.m., I couldn't sleep, not because of stress or anything specific, just this restless energy that made me want to get out. You know that feeling when your mind's buzzing with scattered thoughts, and you need space to let them settle? I grabbed my keys, threw on an old hoodie, and stepped out of my small apartment. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and asphalt. I got in my car, rolled down the windows, and let the cool night breeze rush in. The road ahead was empty, lit only by the soft glow of streetlights casting long shadows on the pavement. I turned on the radio, keeping it low so it wouldn't drown out the sound of the wind. I didn't have a destination, just cruised through familiar streets, past houses with dark windows and shuttered storefronts. There's something peaceful about driving alone at night. No pressure, no noise, just me and the road. I do this when I need to think. On nights like that, it feels like I'm floating outside of time, like the world pauses to let me breathe. I think about small things, a joke my buddy told last week, a work project, or how I need to restock my coffee. But that night felt different. I don't know why, but I had this pull, like something was waiting for me out there. I'd been driving for about 30 minutes, heading out to the suburbs where the city lights fade into darkness. Houses gave way to fields and shadowy trees under the moonlight. I wasn't planning to stop, but when I saw the neon glow of a gas station up ahead, I pulled in, not because I needed gas, my tank was over half full, but because I felt like doing something, anything, to break the quiet in my head. The gas station sat alone by the highway, its white lights buzzing over weathered pumps. I parked at pump 3, killed the engine, and stepped out. The night air was colder than I expected, so I zipped up my hoodie. I took a deep breath, catching the faint smell of gasoline mixed with the chill of the night. I stretched, my joints popping, and decided to head into the convenience store for a snack. Inside, the fluorescent lights made everything look sharp and a little too bright. The cashier, a guy who looked like he'd been on shift forever, gave me a tired nod from behind the counter. His eyes were bloodshot, a cold coffee cup sitting next to him. I wandered the aisles, grabbing a bottle of iced tea and a hot breakfast sandwich wrapped in foil. I paid, exchanged a few quick words, and headed back out. Leaning against my car's hood, I unwrapped the sandwich and took a bite. The warmth felt good against the cold night. I looked around, noticing how quiet the place was. No other cars, just the hum of crickets and a faint breeze. Then I spotted something, a dark SUV parked at the far end of the lot, about 15 feet away. A woman sat in the driver's seat, her head bowed. At first I thought she was just resting or checking her phone, but then I saw her shoulders shaking. She was crying hard. The streetlight above cast a glow into her car, lighting up her face. I couldn't see her clearly, but the way she gripped the steering wheel, alone in that moment, hit me like a punch to the chest. That's when I knew this wasn't just another drive. Something was waiting for me, and I couldn't just walk away. The gas station's neon sign flickered faintly, like it was tired of staying on so late. I stood by my car, biting into my sandwich, the foil's warmth easing the chill creeping through my hoodie. The hum of crickets blended with the silence, creating an eerie stillness, like the world was holding its breath. The dark SUV was still there, its driver's silhouette stark under the streetlight's glow. Her shoulders shook not from the cold, but from sobs she couldn't hold back. Her hands clung to the steering wheel, like it was the only thing anchoring her. Music drifted from her car, something slow, maybe a melancholic indie tune or a soulful R&B track. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound carried a quiet ache, blending with the night air. She looked about 30, maybe younger, but the light etched lines of exhaustion across her face. I froze, sandwich in hand, my heart beating a little faster, not from fear, but from something harder to name. There was something about the way she sat there, on the edge of breaking, that made it impossible to look away. My mind raced. What am I doing? Should I do anything? What if she thinks I'm weird? I sipped my iced tea, trying to sort my thoughts. 5 minutes passed and she didn't move, her head still bowed, shoulders still trembling. I took a few steps toward my car, hand on the door handle, but stopped. A voice in my head pushed me. She's not okay. Just ask if she's all right. I'm not the type to butt into other people's business. I like my space and I respect others' privacy. But that night, something stronger than my usual caution took over. Maybe because I've had nights where loneliness felt like it could swallow me whole. And I know what it's like when no one notices. I took a deep breath, letting the cold air fill my lungs, then walked slowly across the lot. My sneakers scuffed against the concrete, the sound loud in the quiet night. As I reached the SUV, my heart pounded. I tapped lightly on her window, careful not to startle her. She looked up, eyes red and mascara strict. She wasn't scared, just surprised, like she hadn't expected anyone to notice her. I raised my hand palm out, to show I meant no harm. Sorry to bother you, I said, my voice a little shaky. I just saw you and thought you might not be okay. You all right? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, fingers trembling. She took a breath, steadying herself, then rolled the window down halfway. Her voice cracked but was clear. I'm fine, she said, but the word fine sounded like a lie even she didn't believe. Asterisk, I nodded, trying to keep things light. Okay, just checking. I'm not trying to pry or anything. She looked away, lips pressed tight. Thanks, but I'm fine. That was all she said, a fragile fine that felt like it could break. I stood there a second longer, nodded again, and stepped back. All right, take care, okay. She didn't respond, just stared straight ahead, like she was holding herself together by a thread. I walked back to my car, finished my sandwich, but my mind wouldn't let her go. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, but my hand wouldn't touch the gear shift. The image of her, alone, shoulders shaking, kept replaying. This isn't my business, I told myself. She said she's fine, go home. But the feeling in my chest wouldn't let up. I couldn't just drive off and pretend I hadn't seen her. I glanced at the convenience store's lights glowing behind me. A dumb but honest idea hit me. I got out, walked back inside. The cashier looked up, a little confused. I grabbed a small chocolate bar and a tiny stuffed bear, one of those pointless trinkets they keep by the register. I didn't have a plan, just a feeling she needed something, anything, to know she wasn't invisible. When I stepped outside, her SUV was still there, engine running, music still playing. I took a breath, walked to the passenger side. The door was unlocked. I opened it gently and slid in, trying not to spook her. She turned, eyes tired, not scared but annoyed. You again, she said, her voice edged with irritation. I told you I'm fine. I held up the chocolate bar, offering a small smile. I know, this sounds weird, but I couldn't just drive away. Something told me you might need this, even if it's just a candy bar. She didn't take it, just stared at me, sizing me up. I looked straight ahead, avoiding her gaze, and said softly, I'm not trying anything. Not hitting on you, not trying to fix you. I've just had nights like this where it feels like the world doesn't see you, but I felt a shift in the air. Her shoulders relaxed, just a little. She didn't tell me to leave, and in that moment, I knew I'd done the right thing by staying. I looked at Lena, her eyes still wary but softening, like she was deciding if I was for real. There's a spot by the lake, about 20 minutes from here, I said, keeping my tone easy. It's quiet, no one around. If you want, I can take you there. Just to sit, no talking if you don't want. Up to you. She studied me, searching for any hint of an agenda. I kept my hands on the wheel, trying to look calm even though my heart was racing. After a long pause, she gave a small nod. Okay, she whispered, her voice still shaky but less guarded. We got out of her car. I ran back to the store, grabbed some firewood and a bottle of water. The cashier gave me a look, probably wondering why I kept coming back. I paid, stuffed the receipt in my pocket, and carried the firewood out. Lena was waiting outside, arms crossed against the cold. You do this a lot? She asked, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. I grinned. Only when someone needs a place to breathe. She didn't reply, but the corner of her mouth twitched like she wanted to smile but wasn't ready. We climbed into my Corolla, the door creaking as she shut it. I started the engine, its low rumble filling the quiet night. Lena sat in the passenger seat, silent, staring out the window as the darkness swallowed everything beyond the headlights. For the first 10 minutes, neither of us spoke. I didn't want to push her, and she seemed content with the silence. The tires crunched on the gravel road, mixing with the hum of my car's old heater. I glanced at her once, saw her hands clasped tightly in her lap, like she was holding herself together. I wanted to say something but figured silence was what she needed most. Finally, she broke the quiet. You pick up strangers at gas stations often. Her voice was hoarse but had a spark of humor, like she was testing me. I chuckled, eyes on the road. Only the ones who say I'm fine when they're clearly not. She let out a soft huff, almost a laugh. "Sorry about earlier," she said, quieter. "I didn't mean to snap. I just didn't want anyone to see me like this." "No worries," I said. "You don't owe anyone." Calm. She turned to look at me, her eyes softening. "I'm Lena," she said, like her name was a small gift she'd decided to give. "Ryan," I replied, smiling. "Nice to meet you, Lena." No handshake, no formalities, just names. And the air in the car felt lighter. The road to the lake was a narrow path, lined with tall pines rustling in the night breeze. When we got there, I parked near a clearing with an old stone fire pit some kids had built years ago. I cut the engine, and the night silence rushed in, broken only by the wind and distant crickets. We stepped out, the air biting at us. Lena pulled her jacket tighter. I grabbed a firewood from the back seat and led her down a short trail to the fire pit. "I come here when I need to get out of my own head," I said, stacking the wood and kindling. "It's like a place outside of time. No pressure, no noise." Lena sat on a flat rock, watching me start the fire. The flames caught, their warm orange glow lighting up her face, highlighting the dried mascara streaks. "You don't know anything about me," she said, almost to herself. "Why are you doing this?" I sat down nearby, far enough to give her space, because when I saw you crying alone, I knew that feeling. The one where the world's pressing down on your chest, and no one notices. She looked at me, her gaze lingering like she was checking if I meant it. She took a deep breath and started talking. "I've been a mess all week," she said, her voice trembling. "My boyfriend, the guy I thought I'd married, cheated on me with my best friend. I found them in our apartment, acting like it was no big deal." She paused, her hands clenching. "They said they didn't mean to fall in love. It just happened. My parents even said I should have seen it coming." I didn't interrupt, just listened. Her voice broke at times, then hardened, like she was fighting to hold herself together. "Tonight, I was just trying to drive home, but my hands were shaking so bad I couldn't steer. I pulled into the gas station, and I couldn't keep going." I stared at the fire, feeling the weight of her words. "You don't have to keep going right now," I said. "Sometimes just sitting, breathing, is enough." She didn't respond, but her eyes softened, like my words had reached something inside her. We sat there, letting the fire do the talking. I pulled out the snacks, handing her the chocolate bar. "Since you didn't take it earlier," I said, winking. She smiled, a real one this time, small but genuine. We roasted marshmallows on sticks, and when they caught fire, she told me about the time she nearly burned down her kitchen trying to bake. I told her about failing my driving test because I forgot to signal right outside the DMV. She laughed louder, and for a moment, the air felt lighter. As the sky started to lighten, I stood. "I should get you back to your car," I said. She nodded, standing slowly. On the drive back, we didn't talk, but the silence was comfortable now. When we reached the gas station, she turned to me. "Thanks, Ryan," she said, her voice steady, "for not leaving." I smiled. "Thanks for not kicking me out." She laughed, then leaned over and kissed my cheek a soft, quick thank you. Before getting out, she gave me her number. "Just to check if I'm okay," I said. She nodded, then walked to her car. I watched her drive off, knowing that night had changed something for both of us. 2 months passed since that night at the gas station. I didn't call Lena, not because I forgot, but because I wanted to give her space. Every day I'd open my phone, see her name, hover over it, then stop. I didn't want to be a burden, some random guy butting in while she pieced her life back together. But the image of her in that SUV, shoulders shaking, stayed with me. I wondered how she was, if she'd found any peace. Then one evening, after a long day at work, I was sprawled on my couch, shoes still on, that restless feeling creeping in again. Something told me to pick up the phone. I dialed her number, my heart racing like it did when I knocked on her window. It rang 3 times. "Hello," her voice was soft but surprised. "Hey, it's Ryan. From the gas station," I said, trying to sound casual. A brief pause, then I heard a smile in her voice. "I thought you forgot about me," she said, warmer than that night. "No way," I replied. "I just figured you needed time." We talked for a bit, nothing heavy, just catching up. She told me she'd started therapy, cut ties with her ex completely. "I haven't fixed everything," she said, "but I don't cry every morning anymore." She was working part-time at a small bookstore, and her voice sounded brighter, like she was finding herself again. I told her about work, how my car's door lock broke, and I had to hip check it to close it. She laughed hard, and I felt that nights by the lake come alive again, but without the sadness. I asked if she wanted to meet up. She said yes right away, her voice soft but sure. "Saturday, there's a little coffee shop downtown with outdoor seating and string lights." I got there early, sitting under the warm glow of the lights, listening to a guy strumming acoustic guitar nearby. The music mixed with the hum of distant traffic. I was nervous, wondering if she'd show or if this was just a fleeting moment. Then I saw her, crossing the street. Lena walked over, hair tied back loosely, wearing a denim jacket and a simple dress. She looked different, not just healthier, but like she'd shed an invisible weight. She stood taller, her steps lighter, like she finally knew where she was going when she saw me. She smiled a real, unguarded smile. "Hey stranger," she said, teasing. "Hey you," I replied, standing to hug her. A quick hug, just enough to say we were glad to be here. We ordered coffee. She got an oat milk latte with a sprinkle of cinnamon. I stuck with black coffee. She rolled her eyes, joking, "You're so boring." We sat there for over 2 hours, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about the bookstore, the books she loved, how she'd started journaling again. I told her about burning a pot trying to cook, about football nights with my friends. She laughed when I mentioned my busted car door, and I laughed when she described dropping a stack of books at work. There was a moment when she stopped talking, looked at me, her eyes soft. "What?" I asked, smiling. She shook her head. "Nothing, just, you didn't have to come back. You know," I shrugged. "But I wanted to." She nodded, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, and I felt something growing between us, quiet, steady, real. After coffee, we walked around town, past cobblestone streets lit by shop windows. We stopped at a small park, sitting on a bench, by a fountain. The sound of water mingled with kids playing nearby. She turned to me. "That night at the lake, I didn't think I'd get through it. You helped me see I could." I took her hand, gently, no pressure. "You're stronger than you think, Lena." She smiled, leaving her hand in mine, and we sat there until it got chilly. In the weeks that followed, we started texting more, a sunset photo from her, a dumb meme from me. She invited me to Evergreen Books where she worked. I walked in, smelling old paper and coffee. She wore glasses, a baggy sweater, and a handwritten name tag with a doodled smiley face. She showed me her favorite corner, full of obscure novels. We talked about books, the ones we pretended to like to seem smart. She laughed hard when I caught in a rainstorm while walking. No umbrellas, no raincoats. We ran to a shop awning, soaked but laughing. She grabbed my hand, pulling me closer to stay dry. And in that moment, I felt a new kind of closeness, like we'd crossed an invisible line. Lena still has tough days. She's clear she's not ready for anything serious, and I respect that. I don't push, don't rush. I just show up. Steady, no demands. One stormy night, we sprawled on her couch, listening to rain patter against the windows. She looked at me, her eyes calm. "I don't want to see anyone else," she said. I took her hand. "Me neither." That's how we started, not out of need, but want. Not a fiery romance, but something real, built day by day, moment by moment. It's but almost 6 months since that gas station night, and I still think about how I almost drove away, tossed my sandwich wrapper, started the car, and left Lena behind. Things could have been different, but I stayed. I knocked on her window, and from there, our lives took a new path. Lena moved in with me 2 weeks ago. It wasn't some big, dramatic moment with suitcases and tears in the rain like in the movies. It happened naturally, almost by accident. She stayed over one night, then 2. A week later, she brought a bag of clothes, then a box of books. Before we knew it, she hadn't been back to her place in 10 days. We were on my couch, surrounded by dirty dishes from our attempt at cooking dinner, when I asked, "Do you want to stay here, like for real?" She looked around, that my half-dead houseplant on the windowsill, the pile of throw pillows she always griped about, then nodded. "Yes," she said, her voice sure. "I feel safe with you." So we spent a few evenings moving her stuff. Her books squeezed onto my shelves. Her toothbrush sat next to mine. I found oat milk and pre-cut strawberries in the fridge, things I'd never buy. She left little notes on the fridge like "get more coffee" or just a scribbled smiley face. Those small things made it real. Living together isn't always smooth. She likes a tidy place. I leave dishes in the sink too long. I sleep with the window open. She gets cold. Once we argued because I spilled her favorite moist time that week. But we talk it out, listen, and figure out how to make it work. The important thing is, when one of us is struggling, we don't walk away. One night I came home and found her sitting on the bedroom floor, back against the wall, eyes red. She didn't hide it or say "I'm fine" like that first night. She just looked at me and whispered, "Today sucked." I didn't say anything, just sat beside her, shoulder to shoulder. We stayed like that, quiet, until she leaned her head on me, her breathing stadwine-ganned. Last weekend, we went back to the lake, our lake. We brought folding chairs, a small speaker playing soft indie tunes, and a thermos of hot cocoa. No big speeches, no dramatic moments, just us. By the fire, watching stars twinkle above. Lena took my hand, her fingers warm and sure in mine. "I'm glad you didn't listen to me that night," she said, her voice soft as the breeze. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I knew. "When I said I was fine, I'm glad you saw through it." I smiled, pulling her closer. Part of me knew that night wasn't just about you, it was for me too. She rested her head on my shoulder, and in that moment I felt like we'd found a home, not at the lake, not in my little apartment, but in each other. We haven't figured everything out. We don't know what next year holds, or the year after that. But we know one thing, we're here, together, honest and real. No games, no masks, that's enough. Our story started at a gas station, with a trembling "I'm fine" and a stranger who didn't walk away. It's about a woman learning to breathe again and a man learning what it means to stay. Our love isn't loud or perfect, it's a quiet promise, strong enough to hold us together. And as the fire died down by the lake, I knew that no matter how the world shifts, we'll be here, hand in hand, ready for whatever comes, as long as we have each other. Ryan and Lena's story isn't a fairy tale with a perfect ending. A real journey about showing up, about choosing to stay when things feel broken. That night at the gas station, one small moment changed lives, reminding us that sometimes a single act of care can light a spark in the dark. Photos of the couple and their lake visits are available on our website, hidden-tales.com. Love doesn't have to be loud or flawless sometimes. It's just sitting together, listening, and facing the hard days side by side. This is what Hidden Tales is all about, stories of people, of ordinary moments that mean everything, where kindness and connection can change it all. Do you have a story like this? A moment when someone stayed for you, or you stayed for a stranger? Share it in the comments below. Every story you share is a piece of the puzzle, making the world a little warmer. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hidden Tales to catch more heartfelt stories. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on new journeys where we uncover the hidden beauty in the human heart. Thanks for being here, and let's keep spreading these hidden tales together.